Welcome to the Alcohol Reset, the podcast that helps you reset your habits, health, and relationship with alcohol without judgment or extremes. If you're looking to cut back, take a break, or just understand how drinking can affect your body and mind, you're in the right place. Each episode brings you science-backed insights on neuroscience, nutrition, and habit change to help you feel better, sleep deeper, and take control on your terms. I'm Mike Hardenbrook, best-selling author, neuroscience enthusiast, and habit change expert. I've helped thousands through my book and podcast to rethink their drinking, and now I'm here to help you do the same. Let's get started. Hey there, Mike Hardenbrook here. Have you ever had that moment, that slightly jarring experience? Maybe you're listening back to a voice memo or like watching a quick video from a fun night out, and then suddenly you hear your voice. And your first thought is just, wait a second, is that really how I sound? If you've been there, trust me, you are definitely not alone. It's super common. And it points to something, well, pretty fascinating about how alcohol impacts us. You see, it's not just your brain that experiences changes after a few drinks. Your actual voice undergoes a pretty significant transformation too. From words getting a little slurred, maybe making you sound less articulate than usual, to these unexpected shifts in your pitch, or even like how loud you are. Alcohol has this really surprising and honestly complex effect on the very sound of you. It can genuinely make you sound like a different version of yourself sometimes. And the science behind why that happens is incredibly compelling. So in this exploration today, we're going to break down the science, what really happens to your voice when you drink. We'll look at the specific reasons why some people suddenly become, the loudest person in the room, the impromptu karaoke star, right? While others might find themselves kind of mumbling. And really importantly, we'll look at whether alcohol can cause any permanent vocal changes down the line. Now, this isn't about judging or anything like that. No shame, no finger pointing. It's purely about understanding the surprising science behind an experience a lot of us have probably had. Now, you might be thinking, okay, interesting, maybe, but why does this really matter to me? Well, think about it. Your voice it's so much more than just sound, isn't it? It's a fundamental part of your identity. It's the main way you convey confidence or emotion, and it really shapes how people perceive you. Alcohol can distort these vital aspects. Sometimes it's funny, sure, but other times maybe not so helpful, right? Whether you're, giving a toast at a wedding, or maybe you're on a first date, or just chatting with friends. Understanding how alcohol affects your speech and your vocal cords, well, it can empower you. It helps you stay aware of how you're actually presenting yourself in, any given situation. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's get into the intricate science of what alcohol actually does to your voice. First off, let's think about the immediate physical changes, the stuff you might notice pretty quickly. One of alcohol's main effects is that it's a central nervous system depressant. So think of your central nervous system, like the grand conductor of your body's orchestra, right? Relaying signals super precisely. Alcohol basically tells this conductor, hey, take it easy, relax, slow down a bit. And this relaxation, it isn't selective. It affects everything, including the tiny, highly coordinated muscles. The ones controlling your vocal cords, they're in your larynx, your voice box, and also your tongue. So what's the direct result of these muscles relaxing? Less precision, right? That's where you get that familiar slurred speech. Words might get mispronounced. Or you find yourself kind of struggling to keep a smooth, steady rhythm when you talk. That finesse you need for clear articulation, it temporarily goes offline because those muscle signals are just dulled. Then there are the shifts in pitch and tone. This is interesting. When alcohol gets into your system, it specifically reduces the fine motor control in your larynx. It's not just a general looseness. It actually impacts the delicate tension and coordination your vocal cords need to vibrate at consistent frequencies and to make sound. For some people, this means their voice might actually drop. It gets lower, maybe a bit gravelly, like they've strained it. But for others, it can swing the other way. An unexpected increase in pitch. So what you might call a drunk voice. It's not just some random thing. It's your incredibly complex vocal muscles responding directly to those weaker neural signals thanks to the alcohol. They're not as finely tuned as they normally are. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Especially if you've ever been around someone who suddenly seems to be shouting. Or maybe you've been that person and you didn't even realize it. Happens to the best of us. Alcohol actually dulls specific brain areas, the ones responsible for self-monitoring. These are like your internal feedback mechanisms, right? They tell you in real time about your volume, your tone, how you're coming across. When these areas are impaired by alcohol, your internal volume knob is basically muted, or at least turned way down. That's why some people could suddenly sound like they're yelling across the room, even when they're right next to you. and they genuinely have no clue how loud they've become. That little feedback loop saying, hey, maybe dial it back, it's temporarily out of order. And one more for the immediate effects. Dehydration. This is a big one. Alcohol is a diuretic. Fancy word. Basically means it makes your body get rid of more fluid than you're taking in. This dehydrating effect hits your throat and, crucially, those delicate vocal tissues. See, your vocal cords need a thin layer of lubrication, technically mucus, but think of it like a natural moisturizer to vibrate smoothly, without friction. When that lubrication dries out because of the alcohol, your voice can get hoarser, raspier, definitely less stable. Singers know this all too well. They're super aware that even a little alcohol before performing can seriously mess with their vocal quality. Why? Because their cords just can't glide like they need to. Okay, so those are the kinds of immediate, noticeable changes that can happen after just a few drinks. But what about the longer view? Does alcohol cause permanent vocal changes? Right, it's really important here to distinguish between, say, an occasional social evening and regular heavy drinking. A few nights out, enjoying yourself, probably very unlikely to cause any lasting structural damage to your voice. Phew, right? However, if alcohol consumption becomes chronic, becomes heavy, the situation does change. There can be more serious long-term consequences. What's fascinating or maybe concerning here is that persistent heavy drinking, yeah, it can lead to issues. Things like chronic hoarseness or just feeling like your voice gets tired really easily, vocal fatigue, your vocal cords can end up constantly irritated. And it's not just from the dehydration we talked about, although that's part of it. It's also because alcohol is known to make acid reflux worse. And when stomach acid comes back up the esophagus and reaches your larynx, well, that's really harsh on those delicate vocal tissues. It causes inflammation, irritation, not good stuff. This kind of persistent irritation significantly bumps up your risk of developing things like vocal cord nodules, think of them like calluses on your cords, or just general inflammation. So this raises a pretty important question. Who should be particularly mindful of these risks? Well, these long-term issues are especially concerning for people who really rely on their voice professionally. Think about teachers, podcasters like me, singers, obviously, actors, public speakers, pretty much anyone whose job, whose livelihood depends heavily on their voice being healthy and clear. It's kind of a professional hazard you might not often think about. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, this is really valuable info, but what can I actually do? What can I do to support my voice besides just drinking less? Especially if I do choose to drink sometimes. And that's a fair question. There are definitely strategies to consider. Hydration. Sounds basic, I know, but it is absolutely key. Paramount. Just consistently drinking water before, during, and after you have alcohol that directly helps counteract those dehydrating effects on your vocal cords. It's such a straightforward strategy, but it's highly effective. It's a real difference in keeping your voice healthy. And beyond just water, certain nutrients, certain nutritional compounds can also play a pretty significant supportive role. For example, research shows that alcohol can actually reduce how well your body absorbs vitamin B12, and B12 is vital. It's crucial for nerve health, for energy production, both of which are absolutely critical for maintaining vocal strength, clarity, and that efficient brain-to-muscle communication you need for speech. So replenishing your B12 levels. That can support sharper communication between your brain and those tiny vocal muscles, leading to a steadier, clearer voice. Another compound that's beneficial is something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. NAC helps your body produce glutathione, which is a really powerful antioxidant. What does that do? Well, it helps reduce oxidative stress, that's basically cell damage from unstable molecules, and protect your tissues, including your vocal cords, right? Protect them from alcohol-related inflammation. Now, these types of compounds, B12, NAC, they're often found in formulations specifically designed to help the body recover from some of alcohol's hidden effects. That's just, an informational note for you if you're curious about digging into additional supportive strategies beyond just staying hydrated. Okay, so let's kind of wrap this up. Let's summarize the core idea from this exploration. Your voice. It tells the world who you are. It's fundamental to your identity. It expresses your confidence, your emotions, and it really influences how people perceive you. But alcohol, it can distort that voice in ways you might not always notice. Well, until you hear that recording back, right? Whether it's slurring words or suddenly shouting without meaning to, or just giving that unexpected raspiness, your drunk voice, as we might call it, is actually a pretty clear reminder that alcohol changes more than just how you feel inside. But here's the good news. With awareness, right? Just knowing about these effects, combined with really diligent hydration habits, and if you choose the right kind of nutritional support, you absolutely can protect your voice. You can keep showing up sounding like your real authentic self. You can maintain that vital part of who you are. So maybe this leaves you with something to reflect on, a question to ponder. How might being more aware of these changes, the slurring, the volume shift, the hoarseness, and the science behind it all, how might that awareness influence your next social gathering? Think about how you really want to present yourself, and how this knowledge empowers you, gives you the choice to protect both your vocal health and that unique, essential part of your identity. Something to think about. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you got something out of this, do me a quick favor, leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It helps keep the show going and would mean the world to me. Got ideas, comments, or questions? Shoot me an email at mike@trycloud9.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for extra support, check out Cloud9, makers of Daily Restore, a once-a-day supplement to support your body from alcohol's effects, and Rise and Unwind AM/PM, a 24-hour combo to curb cravings, balance mood, and improve sleep when taking a break. Go to trycloud9.com and use the code PODCAST to save 15% on your next order. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.